Greetings, brothers and sisters. This is another Hollywood celebrities dropping like flies.
They're dropping like flies.
Listen, people are dropping like flies out there.
I am
Boop.
off.
We're dropping like flies around here.
We're dropping like flies here.
Jeez, sir, 2 more just went down. Dropping like flies.
Too many people around here been dropping like flies already, and where's that getting us, huh? Nowhere. Fast.
Biden's being Biden's being extremist.
Crush that fly.
I'm starting a day early. I got my other video done mostly last night. Today is the Thursday, August 29th, so I'll probably add some more things tomorrow and get this done. No, I'm sorry, Tuesday. This up on Wednesday, the 30th. Let's start here.
President Biden has signed off on a new funding request for a revamped COVID-19 vaccine that, quote, works. Let's watch.
Mr. President, can you say anything about the uptick of COVID cases and the new variant?
Yes, I can. Matter of fact, I signed off this morning on a proposal we have to present to the Congress a request for additional funding for a new vaccine that is necessary, that works.
It works. The vaccine that works. You know, this is something he does quite often, and I've covered this in the past with him and then in general. And people say, well, to be honest with you or to tell you the truth, the rest of the time I've been lying to you. And he says things like, oh, I'm not being salacious, or I'm not kidding, or I swear my name is a Biden, or, he says this over and over again. He's a lifelong politician, and he's lying all the time, right? If people trusted him and he believed that he was trustworthy, he wouldn't have to say, and it works. Why would you have to say that, right? You mean you're approving for funding for something that doesn't work? Like, it's not even a question. It's implied by what he said, that they're doing something that, if it didn't work, why would they do it, right? But the fact that he says it calls into doubt. Like, whenever you say, I'm being honest, or, no, seriously, this is true, or whatever it is, right? To tell you the truth, to be honest with you, anything like this. And he says things like that all the time. And then it puts the idea, well, then the person might not be telling the truth. Why'd they say that? If they were telling the truth, then why'd they even say that, right? It creates doubt. I mean, that's just how the human mind works. And it's a weird thing to say. Like, it was a weird thing for him to say when he was, it really works. Well, why, yeah, of course it does. Like, what, I mean, if you believe him and you trust the government, then you would assume that he would only do it if it works, right?
Tentatively, not decided finally yet, tentatively, it is recommended that, or would likely be recommended that everybody get it, no matter whether they got it before or not.
Okay, so there's a lot weird about what he just said. That they're approving funding for a new one that I guess is developed but isn't ready to be shipped out. And this one works, and he wants everyone to get it even if they didn't get it before, but that's just a recommendation. It doesn't sound like he's mandating it, at least not here. And saying that he recommends it whether you got it before or not. You didn't get it before because it was a new one, right? Like, no one's gotten this one because it's new. But I mean, this is typical Joe Biden, who's, like, he's just, when he talks off the cuff, you can't really think this is doctrine. When he's reading something that they've handed to him, that's something else. But we now know, at least in terms of what he just said, that there's a new vaccine that's based in the new variants that he wants money for, and he wants everyone to get it, whether they got the other ones or not. And this one works. So those are the highlights of what he just said. Bronny James diagnosed with congenital heart defect. Family says he'll play again in the very near future. Bronny James is on the road to recovery and apparently might not have much longer to go. The USC freshman and eldest son of Los Angeles Lakers star LeBron James has been diagnosed with a significant but treatable congenital heart defect, which is identified as the probable cause of the cardiac arrest he suffered last month, according to the statement from the James family. The exact nature of the defect wasn't identified, but the family said it was confident Bronny's full recovery and return to basketball is in the very near future. Now, why didn't they recognize this before? See, I showed you LeBron James' budget. He has a $1.5 million budget just to keep his body healthy. He spends $1.5 million every year to keep his body in tip-top shape, and he has had longevity of LeBron James' career is impressive. He's still performing at a high level. I think he's, 40 now, 39, 40. And so he's scored more points than anybody, breaking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's record that I don't think anybody thought was going to be broken. And so he's wants to play another 3 more years. And LeBron James wasn't, a great scorer. I mean, he's a good scorer, but he wasn't like a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar scorer per year. But he's just have a longer career. He's got the assist record. He's going to have all these records of accumulation of, longevity of his career and performing at a high level. And so they get, with a $1.5 million budget, and his kids get the same treatment, right? The kids are being groomed to be professional basketball players. Why wouldn't they know about this defect ahead of time? They've never given any tests. And to say it's the probable cause, that means they don't even know. And so it just smells bad. Like they don't want to come out and tell you what really happened, which we all know, right? The whoop, right? Like they don't, it's not believable. And so this is happening. I got 2 robots. This is these bots that deliver, and they're getting turned over, right? These delivery bots in Los Angeles, and people are robbing them and, doing this to them, right?
Who is it? It's Austin.
There's a granny riding the thing. A granny on top there riding. It's riding it like it's a bucking bronco. I have another thing on robotic cars coming up. Bella Hadid reveals the professional cost of Palestinian solidarity. The supermodel says has no fear when it comes to speaking up about Palestinian rights. Supermodel Bella Hadid, 25, fast becoming as famous as for activism as for her runway work. In a recent interview on the Libyan American journalism Noor Paguri's podcast, Hadid discussed a range of personal and professional issues she faced over her vocal support of Palestine. When I was 14, I wrote Free Palestine on my hand, literally with flowers and paint. I was being called names and being immediately blasted as person of hatred for another people. So then there's this. Jose Maria Fernandez Sosa Farah, president of the European pharmaceutical giant PharmaMar, has been charged by police by falsifying against COVID-19. Dr. Sosa Pharma has been caught up in a scandal in Europe involving people being added to the National Immunization Registry in exchange for large sums of money, with many of them familiar faces and household names. So this is a big pharma guy that was pretending to get the boop, and he didn't really get it. And so this guy, thousands of Spaniards named and faked boop certificate scandal, and he's one of them. And these are very prominent people. White Sox say they weren't aware at first that fan hurt at game was shot. So apparently there was a shooting at a White Sox game, and they didn't know the person was shot. Arlene Sorkin, actor who inspired and originated Harley Quinn dead at 67, which is somewhat young. She was on Days of Our Lives, so cause of death was not disclosed. At Fukushima Daiichi, decommissioning the nuclear plant is far more challenging than water release. And then there was a follow-up. China asked Japan to urge citizens to halt harassment after start of Fukushima wastewater release. Now, I covered this when it happened, after it happened. They were sending robots in there, and the robots were breaking down because of the radiation. They sent people in like as a death mission to get that thing stabilized. And then there was water, they were using ocean water to just keep the rods cooled. And all that contaminated water was flowing back into the ocean. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida asked China on Monday to urge its citizens to halt acts of harassment, including crank calls and stone throwing, at Japanese diplomatic facilities and schools in response to Japan's release of treated radioactive wastewater from the damaged Fukushima nuclear power plant. So fishing groups and all these people, if you're closer to Japan, it's worse, but the Pacific Ocean flows everywhere, and there's going to be these radioactive particles, and they're already in there. It's been happening for years. For erections lasting longer than 4 hours, use this Kathy Griffin picture. That's a wonderful meme. I cannot believe Bob Barker lived as close to 100 as possible without going over. So, this came out an hour after it was announced that Bob Barker died. There was a hoax when he was 94 saying he died. And then, lots of people thought he was already dead. And so he died at 99 years old. And within an hour, this meme, like I heard about him dying, and and then under an hour, this meme was sent to me, right? Like that's how quickly people are cranking out the memes. How big of a conspiracy theorist are you? Hear me out. I want to discuss this. Let me go through the rest of these things. There's another one of these coming up. Olympic swimmer Helen Smart was found dead by 4-year-old daughter who was distraught. Helen Smart, a former Olympic swimmer for Great Britain in 2000, was found dead at 42 by her 4-year-old daughter on early Saturday morning in tragic scene. Smart's daughter Heidi found her mother unresponsive at 4 a.m. at a large cottage off the banks of Lake Queenston in northwest England. Heidi had woken up in the night and tried to get into bed with her. She said to her daddy, "Mommy won't wake up." Smart's mother Lydia told Daily Mail. He said, "Oh, she must be very tired, Heidi. Go back to bed." Smart, a mother too, went to sleep around midnight, hours after doing paddling board at dusk. There she is, being a swimmer in the pool. There she is with her kids. At 4 a.m., Smart's brother Robert woke up their parents and said, "Mom, Dad, you need to keep up. We think Helen's dead." Smart's mom says she ran into the bedroom. I touched her foot and she was cold. I walked around, and the side of her, she looked asleep, but you could tell she was gone. And so, doesn't say here what she died of. Let me see. This is from a couple days ago. See if they've updated it. So she died in her sleep, but they don't have any sort of. They say it might be. It's cardiac arrest. And people who died in their sleep like this, a young woman like that, right? She was paddleboarding, which they're pointing out over and over again here, because oftentimes it comes after overexerting yourself, and then people go to sleep, and then sometimes they drop dead right on the moment, and other times it takes a while. Okay, so someone sent me the real footage of the Indian moon landing.
आप अपनी स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं कि हम लैंडर मॉड्यूल.
People are applauding. Let us all wait to hear from the Secretary Department of...
All right, that was hilarious. One of my viewers sent me this thing on the heart's relationship to the sun and solar flares, EMPs, and these sort of things.
Variability, the time gap between heartbeats, and one of the best objective measures of overall health, synchronizes with these non-visible wavelengths of light. PC1 pulsations have frequencies from 0.2 to 5 Hz, Schumann resonances from 7 to 30 plus Hz, and a reaction to a disturbance of these frequencies may take several hours. People with imperfect nervous and cardiovascular systems are more likely to exhibit increased blood pressure and heart rate, and in the most stressful cases even have a heart attack, while those in excellent health are generally unaffected. Geomagnetic disturbances occur more frequently during enhanced solar activity, and solar maximum for solar cycle 25 will occur from 2024 to 2026. I discuss the causative connections we have and how you can stay healthy and protected more in depth on my channel, so subscribe to stay informed.
Well, I've talked about this before myself. You know, we know that our body's made up of water, and there's electricity in our body and in our heart, right? Like if your heart stops, they give your heart basically a shock, and I mean, there's all these things. And so, you know, those paddles and whatever they have. And, you know, the Wi-Fi, the 5G now, these electromagnetic waves, they mess with your heart and also your nervous system. And there's lots of us, I've had this, multiple other people have had this with COVID, and of course the boop, right, they've had irregular heartbeats. Like my heart, I don't remember the last time I had a regular heartbeat before COVID. Like I don't think I ever thought about it. Like I didn't think I worried about my heart at all before COVID. You know, like I had that one time I glitched out, but I didn't think it was my heart. You know, in fact, you know, other than the fact that I meditate on my etheric heart in the Sajmark system, which, you know, probably gave me more confidence in my, you know, my heart's ability or whatever. And no one in my family, none of my brothers and sisters who are older than me, and my parents and 4 grandparents had any kind of heart issue. None of them died of a heart issue, and they all lived into their 90s. And so heart problems have never been a problem for me. I used to have chest pains, but I didn't attribute that to my heart when I was a little kid or whatever. So after COVID, I've had weird heart stuff, and lots of us have. My wife has had it a little bit too, and even my son, when he got what, you know, was COVID, the third time we got COVID, my son got it, and he had almost no symptoms, but he said, my heart's racing. And so that was the one kind of weird thing for him. And, you know, this is maybe to do with COVID, but maybe it's to do with 5G. Like there could be that. Or solar flares. You know, there's this idea that the magnetic poles are going to shift, and all these things are going to affect people's hearts and nervous systems. You know, I think my heart issues are more nervous system related. Like the impulses are, you know, there's just something off there. It usually helps when I reset my vagus nerve. I found videos on how to do that by sighing or yawning and whatever. There's other things. And, you know, that is whatever it is. But if there is magnetic field stuff going on, and there are, you know, heart-related issues, you might see people just dropping like flies all at once, and, you know, all these things can happen because of the sensitivity of your electrical system to fluctuations in the magnetic field and solar flares and, you know, EMPs that come with it and all the rest of it. And so, you know, we got that to look forward to.
It's been a years-long process.
They were making offers on ag land way above market, and they were offering very, very generous lease terms to the sellers.
And now, Flannery Associates LLC owns over 50,000 acres in Solano County, making them the county's largest landowners. The land remains undeveloped, making leaders uncomfortable as they try to understand who is behind the massive land purchase.
One of my viewers sent me this. Is in California, another land grab.
It's disconcerting to me, especially in Rio Vista, because the Flannery purchases surround our city. And it basically just limits anything we can do in terms of expansion without addressing, you know, their property.
But this may change. This week, Fairfield residents started receiving a survey via text message which mentions a new project that would include a new city with tens of thousands of new homes. The office of Congressman John Garamendi shared screenshots of that survey with KCRA. He believes that national security could be compromised since part of the land that Flannery bought is adjacent to the Travis Air Force Base in Fairfield.
Turns out that they are an LLC that is incorporated in Delaware, and it is totally opaque. We have no idea who the managers are. Of
course, Delaware is from where's Joe Biden's from, close to D.C., and that, was this BlackRock or one of these other companies, but, these land grabs are happening everywhere.
I have no idea where the $900 million is coming from that has been used to purchase 55,000 acres of land.
The congressman adds that everything about Flannery is suspicious, from the land they've acquired to what he calls mobster tactics to get landowners to sell their properties, and making them pay tens of thousands of dollars to protect their land.
They are suing landowners who don't want to give up their generational farms. They farmed this land for more than 150 years, one generation to the next. Yet they're suing these farmers for constraint of trade.
Through a social media post, Catherine Moy, mayor of the city of Fairfield, shared that the Air Force Base is the largest economic driver of Solano County, and if compromised, it would devastate northern Solano County, which brings nearly $3 billion annually to local economies.
So the scam, as we see it now, is to get people to move out of certain places by, what people consider a natural disaster, or changing the policies. They're driving people out of California, New York, and then replace them, buy up the land. And, I went to California, beautiful places out there. We went to the Sequoia National Forest, and think of the cities there in California and the liberal aspect, but there's a lot of agriculture, beautiful areas of, farmland. And someone bought almost $1 billion worth of land for 50,000 acres, which is that's a huge amount of land. And nobody knows who paid for it, who the company really is. It's holding companies. They're not saying why they did this, and they're going about it in a thug-like way, intimidating people off their land, and they're going to get the big block of land out there, and they're going to do something with it, and they don't want you to know, right? This is happening everywhere. So there's already spoofs to this song.
It's taken all day. How do you expect me to check my 401k? Plus my fudge round supplier no longer takes Apple Pay. Oh, it's a damn shame.
Hopefully I'll revisit this either today in my voiceover or tomorrow, this song, and its continuing impact. Okay, weirdly enough, something happened here. I was looking through my Facebook messages, and I opened it up to somebody's message, and it was from when Bronny James first had the heart attack or cardiac arrest. Two different things. Heart attack, your heart's still working. Cardiac arrest, your heart stops. And so Sanjay Gupta wrote this. Cardiac screening of Bronny James several months ago was normal. Source familiar with the matter. Bronny James, who on Monday suffered a cardiac arrest, was hospitalized, had a cardiac screening several months ago as part of a program for prospective NBA players, according to a source familiar with the matter. The screening included a transthoracic echocardiogram. Boom. Got the second one, which looks at blood flow through the heart and heart valves, an EKG, which is recording the heart's electrical activity, and the source said both screenings came back with normal results. The normal results of the test are a good sign and likely mean the episode wasn't caused by an anatomical pre-existing problem. Well, now they're coming out and say he has a congenital heart defect, and I think he probably had more than just these tests, right? Because they test these athletes, and especially now, like this has happened after what happened with the guy from the Buffalo Bills, right? Damar Hamlin. But, this is something that they test now for athletes. And the medicine for sports medicine is all about this stuff. And, they did this, and now they're coming out and saying he has a congenital heart issue. Okay, so this guy, someone, I guess my wife sent me this. It gets worse. Vivek Ramswari's company sued Moderna, saying they used his company's biological mechanism and his company should get credit and payment royalties from the mandated COVID-19 Moderna bloop. Check out the study from the NIH website. Vivek is big pharma. You know, I mean, I was always talking about Vivek Ramaswamy being just, you know, his obnoxious, condescending smile. But this, you know, and someone else sent me a tweet, somebody reviewing a tweet or reading his tweet from 2020 when Biden made it made it all the bloop available, and Vivek supported Biden doing that, saying I got to give credit where credit's due. So he was very happy that Biden was rolling out the whoop. So, you know, that's all you have to know about that guy. But then somebody just commented, I just read this right before I got to the editing of this section of the video. I was going through my comments. I'm going to do some comments at the end about Shiva, Dr. Shiva, and a couple of haters. Haters of mine. Now that I criticize their savior. But this person writes, Vivek is clearly sharper than RFK. His ideals are more solid than RFK. RFK says truth, but gets on his knees for the Wailing Wall. He's clearly a shill. Vote Vivek for VP. Dems are sin of God. Say 10. It's all Hegelian and Brahmin and Arabic lost tribe anyways. But if you're going to cast a spell, you might as well go for someone who doesn't suck ICK. I guess he meant any faith that seems a group as dirt by reflection. I read that, the person is inarticulate in their comment. You should take some time and make sure again, I'm not one to talk because you can see my titles are often misspelled and things. So there's that, but there's a reason for that. But if you're going to write a comment and you want people to read it and you want people to hear what you're thinking, then you might as well make the thing readable. And I'm going to get into the whole RFK thing again with him versus Shiva and all these things when I go to the comments, because there's a difference there, and it's a simple one. But, Vivek is clearly his fake smile and everything sucks about him. He's a Republican. He's not really a truther or anything like that. And he's big pharma. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, who cares? Do what you want. You want to vote for him. I don't know if it matters. They're not going to be worse than Biden or Trump. It's just, there's nobody going to save the country.
The airplane lady.
Those people aren't real?
No one's been able to track her down, right?
No.
She just popped up this past week on TMZ.
It's basically her just saying, I apologize, I shouldn't have done that. When I saw it, I was like, that doesn't look like her. We didn't know who she was for the first couple weeks. Like, they couldn't even find a name. She started a new Twitter account when she posted this video. The first person she followed was TMZ. So people started doing like some AI face detection. There's this guy that does it online professionally, and he says if you get a score 0.6 or below, it is the same person. He put videos that were on the plane, videos that were outside the plane of the real Tiffany.
And it's not her.
1.2. Guy's like, I was not expecting this. He's
Wow.
like, this makes me really interested. One other dude checks her IP address from the video. Okay. Guess where it tracked to?
TMZ headquarters.
Place Texas. 2 blocks away from the White House. Washington, D.C.
Stop it right now!
So did she see something, and then they put in a double, be like, this was so embarrassing.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now.
Okay, so here is her post. Remember her, if they deleted it, maybe they've deleted, here it is right here. And this is her here. She's like an Instagram model. WTF wasn't real. She's got a lot of these kind of posts. And so down here at the beginning, there's this, and it says April 25th, 2015. So she's had this Instagram page up for a while. The thing about it is, these photos all have the Instagram filters. And this one right here, I said she didn't look real.
Hi everyone, it's me, Tiffany Gomez, probably better known as the crazy plane lady.
Now, she, I said she looked like there was a filter here. And it's hard to tell because there's a different angle and the woman was screaming in a high-pitched voice, but maybe there's some similarities, but it's easy to say that that isn't the same person. And, you know, as crazy as the first video was, if they put out a person that isn't her, and I can't verify that one way or another, well, that becomes a lot more interesting, because if there's, any truth to what these guys were just saying, and I'm not looking at it or validating it, but I covered this before. Somebody sent me the video. And, there's a connection to DC or whatever, and this is a fake person, then, it becomes really suspicious. It's not somebody having a breakdown. It's somebody who's been disappeared, and they put out somebody fake to cover. They didn't even need to do it because the woman was hysterical, and nothing was going to come of it. There's no reason to put a fake person out, but she just didn't look real here.
Which is completely warranted. As you know, I have been unwilling to speak on the viral video, but I do finally feel that it's time.
So again, that might be her, and I would say I think it's, maybe her, but probably not. I don't know. It's hard for me to care about this, but, obviously now it becomes a lot more interesting that there's question about her legitimacy, and then why would they put out a double? Like then, the cover-up's always worse than the crime. If they just let it go, it would have disappeared. People are, the internet being what it is, they could have just, moved on to something else and everyone would have forgot about it. But now that this is out and it doesn't look like it's, the same person, it becomes really suspicious. Okay, so before I get to the Dr. Shiva supporter comments, I want to address this. I thought I had another thing here. Maybe I deleted it. I didn't make this when I wanted to, because the Dr. Shiva video, the first one, went a lot longer than I thought it was going to go. And so I had all these things that you see now that I wanted to get to, and I didn't. So anyways, but let's revisit this idea that they painted the the video that I had was an Instagram video, and sometimes I take those down by mistake, but somebody sent me a video where it showed a laser would not burn through something that was the color blue. But if you remove the blue, whatever the blue thing was, and they just had something else underneath it, it would burn through that. And so the idea here was a direct energy weapon would not respond to the color blue, and people are painting their houses blue. You probably heard the theory. And I have no way to disprove it or not, and don't care, because I'm just over this kind of details. The details no longer really matter to me, because I don't need the proof. Or if it's an organic event, or it's, they did something, if it's laser beams or it's this, people in the truth community will debate these things. And, this has been a big problem. And I used to care about the details. I don't anymore, because I don't need it to be proven to me. This is a land grab. They've already, because they came out and said, we're going to stop the land grab, the official people. And they're doing it all over the place. I don't need convincing. But this idea, in the truth community, that you go down the rabbit hole, and people need to do that. They want to spend their time that way. That's fine. It's up to you. It's none of my business. And I've said this over and over again, other than this idea of witnessing and boycotts, there's no leverage within the truth community. They don't care about your opinion. They've got the younger generation, as far as they can tell, where they want them, pacified and willing to live in small boxes and have a much different lifestyle, and in the real world lifestyle, IRL, doesn't exist for them. And so they got them. They're waiting for us to die out. There's going to be a massive die-off. They want the older generation to leave, and then they can get the younger generation to buy into this agenda. But I think other things are going to happen. They don't know. They very seldom get exactly what they want, the controllers, because they don't have the ability to create things and manifest things, because they're so far away from God. So they need other people's energy. They need your fear. They need your contribution to manifest things for them. But, they've lost control of this whole thing. And that was inevitable. And so there's going to be divine intervention here, whatever, how this unfolds. And, some of it's going to be pretty rough for all of us, and we'll just have to deal with it. That's, my thoughts on this situation. And so going down the rabbit hole and debating over details is, to me, just pointless and a waste of time. And speaking of which, I got 2 comments here. See if I get the comments in order. Well, the first one, the person wrote this. I think this was to my other channel. Well, that's pretty hateful to wish COVID deniers to get COVID because you get triggered by their comments, which is just a hostile way and misrepresenting what I said. Like what I said was, I don't want to say like I want them to get COVID, but like it would be what they kind of deserve. The people who deny COVID, and not the sense that you can deny COVID existed, and whatever that means to you. I don't understand, some of these guys' points of view. But if you're saying it didn't exist, it's just the flu, the flubies. In the beginning, I didn't know if it existed or not, but then I got it. And most people got it or had a family member that had a severe dose. And so the flubies disappeared for the most part. But someone dropped this comment on me, like it was a comment from like 2 years ago that just showed up. But it was, somebody just dropped it. And, them getting COVID, and I don't know if they'd still deny it if they got a severe case, I don't know. But that's what they kind of deserve because of their obstinance, not in what they believe, but constantly saying things like telling me that they didn't respect me and these other things. And I wasn't triggered by the comment. Anybody could see, I've had these comments, so many of them. You get numb to them, and my personality doesn't, I don't care. But it gives me something to make fun of. And I was hoping that with these Shiva comments, because, I just, I posted another long video about this, and that's the second comment I want to get to. Here's the first one. I'll read that in just a second, but the video I put on my other channel is just how I feel about this in general, the whole thing, the dynamics here, the so-called truther dynamics. But most of the people agreed with me. Many of them had things to say about Dr. Shiva, including him being married to Fran Drescher. A lot of people were like, yeah, I don't know why people like this guy. They've watched a number of his videos. They've known him for a while. And the majority of people agreed with me. Like there was probably 100 comments and 98 of them agreed with my position and said things like, he has to be the smartest guy in the room and, he's obnoxious. They agreed that he had off-putting energy and he was hard to listen to. And so this guy writes, Shiva is an effing crusher. Yes, he has no chance, and he acknowledged that because I said he had no chance at the election. Well, then why run for president? Again, there's 2 things about this. Running for president when you can't possibly win and can't get on the debate stage. I mean, that's the other thing, that he has no chance of doing that, right? And so he keeps on saying he's running for president, but he wants people's support because he wants, he's selling something else, right? It's a bait and switch. It's a way to get publicity, and not in a good way. And he's being kind of a dick to everybody, which, I make fun of people, so I don't mind that, right? And, if it's funny, I don't find his stuff funny because he's not a funny person. But, his name calling and whatever, calling Bobby Kennedy booby, and I'll get into why there's an issue with that, the Kennedy stuff, because he's gone after Kennedy particularly. But he's fairly obnoxious and, like this commenter said, he wants to be the smartest guy in the room, and like he invented the true stuff. And we've been here a long time before this guy showed up, right? And he's got a different perspective than we do. But he's using this as a publicity stunt. And it's, a narcissistic pursuit. He wants people to see him. Hey, look at me over here, right? And he's not running like he wants to win people over. He's trying to carve off a certain amount of people for his, whatever scammy thing that he's doing there, right? Like his scheme to get people to get his training programs and his books and things to tell truthers how to think like a truther. Like this is, basically what I see this guy in terms of what he presented. It was hard for me to listen to him. but that's his deal, like something along those lines. And so it has nothing to do with the presidency. And so there's no reason to talk about him. The people who wrote to me said, this guy says Kennedy stole his platform. He's the real deal. And Kennedy is a copycat of Shiva. And that's not true at all. Kennedy and Shiva are quite different. And Kennedy has a legitimate chance of, if not winning, affecting the election in one way or another. He could run as independent, and he's already has, things going on, the lawsuit against Google, the Senate hearing on censorship. And you could say he's controlled opposition. Certainly his position on the Palestine thing was a real, deal breaker for most of us, right? Like, I was supporting Kennedy, knowing he can't win, knowing he probably won't win, but that he can't change things. And that's the bigger piece. And if you're a real truther, you would know you can't change things, so you wouldn't run for president. Like, it's just stupid. And he's a player. Like, he wants to say that he's an outsider, but he married Fran Drescher. Like, that's all you had to know about the guy. Why do you even guys write to me? Anybody who knew he married Fran Drescher, you shouldn't have wrote to me and say, what do you think of this guy? You should have said, this guy that everyone's talking about married Fran Drescher, and he's a joke, because that's, you can't be a legitimate truther, and you got some explaining to do when you married Fran Drescher, right? So I want to make a distinction here, but let me read the other comment. I want to talk about Bobby Kennedy, but let me read the other comment. I guess YouTube advertising revenue for podcaster is lower than I thought. And this is the person addressing me about this. If I weren't a very polite old lady, I'd tell you to get off your hands and knees and stop servicing Bobby Jr. So that's something that I've said. That comes directly from me saying that about all these people who interviewed Kennedy, and me saying that about Jimmy Kimmel, the way he treated Hunter Biden. And that's not what, it's her just trying to magnify her butthurtness and mischaracterize me because it makes her feel better, because she's angry. I've hurt her, and I've told her savior isn't a savior. And she's a polite old lady, but she wouldn't say things like that. And the person below this says, does this mean you're not a polite old lady? Because he's already servicing the masters, as we saw in that interview. You guys are looking like a human centipede. And now a hit job on Dr. Shiva talking about bad energy. Have you felt your own lately? And so my energy was fine when you were watching my videos, and enough of them. And this person I don't recognize, so never commented before, but has watched enough videos so knows that my position or some of the things on Kennedy, and she doesn't know it because that was never my position. I made it clear that I thought he couldn't change anything, and that he's a different kind of a truther, right? Like, he's not, he's part of the club. He's born into the club. And so there's a difference there. And I'll get into that more in a second, right? And so she watched enough of my videos to know I said this thing about servicing. So she's trying to use my own burn against me. Like, it's going to hurt my feelings, right? Some, tired old hag who says she's too polite unless you butthurt her enough that she responds in this way. And she's butthurt over someone she's never probably met. And you know what? Because you think Dr. Shiva is going to be affected by my so-called hit job? Like, how is he going to be affected? He's not part of the narrative. They're not worried about Dr. Shiva. And, he's got a business plan and a model here. He wants to make some truther money, and he'll find some fools to do his program because there's plenty of them. But, that's up to you. You want to pay your money? Go ahead. Throw your money away. Like I've said this before. You want to take the boop? Go take 10 of them. I don't care. Like, I don't care if you destroy yourselves, right? This is, I give you information and my perspective. And I was asked by people, what do you think about this guy? In the context of he was running for president. And all you people who asked me what I think about him, you didn't say he has no chance of winning, which I already knew because I never heard of the guy before. And so, that I said, this is pointless. He has his own scam where he wants to get, he's got a $25 program and $100 program. And, he tells you, what he predicts, and he's withholding information based in some sort of a paywall. He's worth between $5 and $10 million, according to that one website. He claims he invented email, but he still needs some of your truther money because he didn't get paid off by, everybody. He doesn't get a percentage of the the email money, right? But the guy's wealthy, and he's a player, and he's connected to these celebrities, and all of it, right? And so, there's nothing to see here. He's another celebrity truther trying to, get attention and gain money, do these things. We've seen a number of them. And that was my opinion. That's what I saw. That's what I read in him. And lots of people talked about his energy being off. He's off-putting. As soon as I started listening to him, I'm like, I just want to turn this guy off. I don't want to listen to him. It's unpleasant for me to listen to him. And more so than other people. And Bobby Kennedy. It's much easier for me to listen to Bobby Kennedy, even with his raspy voice. It was hard to listen to his slathering all over Palestine, his, all of that, right? That was, that was horrible on his part. But the thing is, a real truther would never run for presidency because you can't fix the problem. And the politics and the other things about this are greasy and undesirable. You don't want to be associated with that, right? You shouldn't run for political office unless it's some kind of local thing if you're a truther. Because if you're a truther, the system's rigged and the system's evil. And I break this down in my other video. I'm not going to cover it here. Most of you who probably watch both channels have already watched that. So, that's a much more delicate and profound way. I was in a different mood when I recorded that. And I think it's one of my better explanations of this. There's different levels of explanation. But there's no real truther who should run for president. So in terms of somebody who's truther adjacent or is a truther in a different way, the best you're going to do is Bobby Kennedy. Aside from his take on Palestine and Israel, that old stuff, and some of the other things that he's done in the past. He has a, very checkered past, but, being like a serial cheater and these things, talk about his character and, some of the things that, all the things that the scandals, his wife committing suicide, those are bad things. They're just, you can change. Everyone's got the possibility for changing. And he may change his position on Palestine. And, he may be a shill. I think he's sincere based on what I've seen. Sincere in that he likes to be liked. He changes his position. He changes the way he describes things and talks about things based on the people he sits in front of. And, so he's a politician. He grew up in a political family. There's lots of skeletons and, weirdness in the Kennedy family. And so, there's issues there. But that's the best you're going to get. Because a real truther and a person who's a real truther, they're not going to elect, and a real truther wouldn't run for president. Because you're not going to get elected, and they would, kill you before you got any kind of power, and there is no real power to get. So the whole thing's just a scam and a show. But there are things that could be affected by somebody who's truther adjacent. And he does have certain beliefs that agree with many of our beliefs. At least they're close to them. And he has a legitimate chance of being in the discussion. He might make it up on the debate stage. And he might influence the outcome of the presidency. And there is a chance he could destroy the Democratic Party or expose it. And there's all kinds of things that could happen. He's already started to expose the Democratic Party because they're trying to rig the election against him early on in the process. If he's a shill, he's just like the other guys, so you have nothing to lose. He's not worse than Joe Biden. He's not worse than Trump. And so voting for him, and I'm not voting unless, there's some sort of a change here. I've lost my enthusiasm for him. But it was the way he was going to affect the show, not that he was going to change the system. The system needs to go down. The system needs to collapse. It's evil, and I break this down for over 40 minutes in the video I just posted on my other channel today. Today is the August 29th. So on Wednesday, the video I posted on Tuesday on my other channel, I talk about this extensively. So you're never going to get like a real truther candidate. And even if you did, most people in the truth community are so sucky, we can't come together and overlook a person's issues. You know, the QBs are going to be one thing, the woke people, I mean, all these, you know. Everyone wants people to believe exactly like they believe. And if you stray away from that, you know, people, old ladies like this that are too polite to you know, so but you know, being butthurt and getting emotional and making things up and trying to lash out and hurt somebody, it just you punk yourself, right? Over somebody you don't even know and I don't even care about. Like I was asked this. If my viewers didn't come to me in droves wanting my opinion of this guy, I wouldn't have ever said anything. I saw him, I looked at his stuff, I heard he was against Bobby Kennedy, and I was going to revisit it, but I just didn't like listening to him, and I got busy with other stuff. And then, you know, they keep on asking me about it, so, you know, there's a topic of conversation. But she's saying that the money wasn't good enough, so I'm doing a hit piece on him like I'm getting some kind of coin from the government or something for saying my opinion. People asked my opinion, I gave it. It's that simple. You don't have to agree with it. If you have a problem with it or you feel like I suck or whatever, go somewhere else. That's fine. Like, you know, that's cool. Like, you don't have to try to, like, you know, lash out to me with things that I said to, you know, think you're going to hurt my feelings or something. It's just embarrassing for you. But in terms of Shiva's constant obsession with Kennedy in a negative way, the difference is Shiva knows he can't win and knows he's not going to be taken seriously. But Kennedy is at least agreeing with some of the truther positions. And even if he's a shill, the way that plays out in the show is interesting. If he's exposed as a shill like Alex Jones was, you know, Alex Jones being interviewed with Piers Morgan, I knew Alex Jones was a shill by then. I knew he sucked. I knew he was controlled opposition, but I was interested in seeing the interview. And he just failed so miserably. Alex Jones, if I showed you clips of that Piers Morgan interview, you know, was bad for the truth community. And you'll be able to see that with Kennedy, and he'll either stand up and articulate the truther narratives in a way that, you know, we'll be satisfied and happy with, or he'll, you know, embarrass us and embarrass himself and embarrass the movement and, you know, give rise to more censorship the way Trump did and some of these other things, right? You know, only the test of time will show in action. Like, words are words. You know, people, you know, liars, but actions are actions. And either way, he ain't saving the system. He ain't saving you, and neither is Shiva or anybody else, right? There's no savior, which is the title of my video on my other channel, right? So, you know, like, it's time to put it behind you. There might be some more comments coming in tomorrow, so I'm going to end this voiceover here, and either I'll end the video here or I'll add some more, you know, whatever, tomorrow and put it and tack it on to the end of this thing. Okay, still the same day here. I forgot something about this comment. It's really the most important part about it. And so this part at the end where she says, you guys are looking like a human centipede and now a hit job on Dr. Shiva. Talk about bad energy. Have you felt your own lately? Now, this woman who says that she's a very polite old lady. She says that she's a very old, polite lady. And she's obviously watched my show here, or listened to my show, or whatever you want to call it, for multiple shows, you know, for some period of time. So she was watching my show and happy with it, whatever. And then all of a sudden I say something about Dr. Shiva, and she gets butthurt. And all of a sudden I have bad energy because I said he had bad energy. Not because I have bad energy, right? When I said I felt like Dr. Shiva had bad energy, it's because that's how I felt. I'm not saying it because I don't like him or I have some kind of agenda, and that was, you know, a way I could. I mean, when politicians go after each other and they try to make a case against the other person, and they don't care if it's true or not. And I do. Like, when I present things to you, I don't say things that aren't true. You know, occasionally I'll make a joke if there's a, some sort of a rumor that's going around or something about a, politician or an actor or something, I'll just say it like a, tongue-in-cheek type of thing. But if I say something like the person has bad energy, it's because that's how I feel, right? I'm not, there's no like some kind of deception here. But this person is trying to use my own words against me, right? And, well, you say he has bad energy, but you have bad energy. No, I don't have bad energy because you're, like, this is a very immature, old, polite lady, right? This is a child in an old lady's body because that's what children do. Oh, you say that I have bad breath, but you have bad breath. Well, do I have bad breath? No, but it hurt my feelings when you said I had it, so I have to say you had it. And there are plenty of things to criticize about me. But none of those things bothered you before you watched the Dr. Shiva video. None of those things were, maybe you had some things that you're annoyed with me, whatever. Some criticisms. But the Dr. Shiva thing affected this person. And they're just going to make up anything to lash out and try to hurt me or, whatever. Paint me as something that I'm not because you got emotionally butthurt for no good reason. Because Dr. Shiva doesn't care about you, right? Nobody does. Like, none of these people in the truth community or any of these people on YouTube or any of these politicians or any of these celebrities care about their fans. They say they care about you because they want you to stay, right? They'll say nice things about you. Oh, I love you guys so much. But they don't know you. They don't know you personally. And I bet if they did, they wouldn't like you. But anyways, they think of you as customers, right? Fans are customers. That's how it's targeted on social media. You're a targeted customer. They can sell you their program or their merch or whatever it might be. Or they sell themselves to you, whatever. So you get more subscribers, you make more money. That's, some people like other people and, they want to meet other people, but that's not you as a person on the internet because they don't know you. Like, you might think you know me or Dr. Shiva or any of these other people. You think you know them, political candidates, you identify with them, you start hearing their story, and you feel like there's a connection there. And it's a one-sided connection because they don't know anything about you. Maybe if you leave some comments and things, there are people I know about, people who if I heard that, something bad happened to them, I would be, I feel bad, There are people who've been here for a while that, there's people I used to have more exchanges with, so you make some connections and things like that, but I don't have the time for that now, right? And so the majority of people are just, are icons and they may or may not even comment, right? There's thousands of viewers that I get every day that never comment. I get thousands of views, and I get hundreds of comments, right? I get, 4,000 to 7,000, 10,000 views per video. And I get, a couple hundred comments, right? And so that's okay. Like, that's, you don't have to comment. But, there's people who send me links, which I appreciate, and I would recognize their, a little bit about the person, right? There are people that send me, whatever, messages and links. The links are helpful. The messages are, sometimes people need me to help them, and, I'll pray for people or whatever, because it's my duty to do that. But, I'm not looking to hear everybody's life story because I could be a therapist and I'm not good at it. I'm not a great listener. And so, but I'm much more honest than the rest of these people that say they love you or they care about you. They love you because they need subscribers. They need a fan base. They need a customer base. And so, that's all it is, right? And so, why are you upset that I said Dr. Shiva has bad energy? If it isn't that you care about him or you're defending him, then you're just upset that you think that you're right about everything. You've never made a mistake before. You've never misjudged somebody. You've never, what, I tell you there's no Santa Claus and you're upset at me and you have bad energy too, buddy. I'm a polite old lady. Have you looked at your own energy? And so this is what I'm talking about, these stupid comments, right? Like, know why you're commenting. Know why you're upset. This is being an adult. Figure out why it bothered you I said something about Dr. Shiva? Like, why did it bother you? Because I'm telling you you're wrong. Like, I don't care if you love the guy. Like, I didn't go to his YouTube page and write comments to everybody and tell them he has bad energy. Like, I didn't go to people who had commented and say they like him a lot and say, oh, you're wrong, he has bad energy. Why would I do that? Because I don't care about that. I don't care if people, gravitate to him. I don't care if he has a fan base. And, I don't know the guy, right? I watched some little parts of his videos. I found it off-putting. And I don't see a point. He can't win presidency. And the fact that he's undermining Kennedy, who is the only candidate who's kind of a truther, or at least can articulate the truther policies. He's your truther candidate, whether he's a shill or not, whether he's controlled opposition or not, whatever it is. He's the only one that has a legitimate shot of winning or at least affecting the race, right? And then you're going to have Trump and Biden. And then if Biden dies, you'll have somebody else or whatever. Trump goes to jail, and it'll be somebody else, and it's all the same stuff. Kennedy at least represents something different. I'm not saying to vote for him or support him, because I see his limitations, and, it's a bummer that he said those things about Palestine. It's a bummer that he cheated on his wife 38 times in 1 year or whatever with different 38 women or whatever. I mean, it's a bummer that he has these tendencies and the issues he has. Like, he's far from perfect. And so, but that's your truther candidate. And there hasn't been one before. There hasn't been anybody who articulates the truther positions, and he's certainly not full-blown truther, and he couldn't be if he had any chance of winning. And so Shiva shouldn't be ragging on him, because Shiva doesn't have the chance to win, but he wants to peel off some customers or whatever, whatever his motivation is. It's not a positive thing for the whole. I don't mind him calling Kennedy names, because I said some pretty harsh things to him, when he was, those videos I made about Kennedy after I found out about some of these other things and, the neediness he has and some of the other aspects of it, right? But whether I say something positive or negative, there's no emotion in me. Like, I don't get upset. It doesn't come from a place of emotional immaturity where I have to lash out at people, because it doesn't matter to me. I'm only seeing limited things here on a system that can't be saved. So why am I going to get all upset by people having flaws and people selling out and people being evil when we have an evil system that's collapsing? And so, everybody's got to figure it out for themselves. It's between me and God. It's between you and God. You have to answer for your actions. I have to answer for mine, right? So there should have been no reaction to this video, to my other two videos, right? There just shouldn't be. In terms of Shiva fans or not, people asked my opinion, I gave it, and I'm moving on. Like, I don't have some grudge or some other thing, right? I just, all right, you're fans of the guy, great. You do what you do. You want to give him money? Sure. It's your prerogative. I don't care. So people asked me about it. I said, this is how I feel about him. Other people, the majority of people agreed. He's not very likable. He's not, he's not drawing a lot of people to him. Neither am I. There's different personality types, and we all have our ways of being. And he's smart and can articulate the problem, like I said in my other video, but so can a lot of other people. And there is no solution. There is no solution to this system. The solution that I provide here isn't my solution. The solution I provide comes from Babaji, Sri Ramchandra, a simple man in India who reached high levels of spiritual attainment. And he was ordered by the divine, the beings that manage this planet to do work. When you manifest something, when you're able to set goals, and many of you have done this in your life, where you set a goal and you make something happen in the material world. You take an idea, you take, a plan that comes from, you internally, maybe you work with other people, and either you by yourself or you and other people manifest that into reality. We're all doing that. We're all creating reality. We're manifesting things in reality. And people who are saints, who are closer to God, they can manifest things globally, they can universally. And that's the work that he did in terms of, this is the plan that, I have been informed about through the teachings of the system in Babaji's diaries and his, talking about this. And you can believe it or not. Like, I'm not saying it's, it's some kind of fact for you. This is what I believe the plan is. And that work was done so a series of events would unfold to bring down the current system, because people won't change and accept the deal they're going to get, the deal that is giving up lots of their immoral and decadent and deviant material life for a life where they're aligned with God. People would do that already if they wanted to, and they're not. They've had that choice. Everyone has that choice to do the moral thing, to do the ethical thing, to come to God and live a godly existence. And some people do, but it's 1 out of a million. It's a small number. Everyone else has that opportunity but doesn't accept it. And so the only way for people to take that deal is things have to be worse than they are now, and where that deal is actually better. And so, and there has to be, some kind of motivational factors like the pain and suffering of a systemic collapse and living in a post-apocalyptic world. And so events that are going to unfold, that are being orchestrated by the divine hierarchy that manages things for God, right? There are beings that do godly work on any planet, and lower level and higher levels in these things. And so the system will be taken down, population will be reduced, people will be humbled, humiliated, and they will be beseeching God for forgiveness, right? Because of what's happened, what they've caused here, what we've caused here. And they'll look for redemption, and they'll seek God inside themselves, and they'll do what they could have done all along. And so that's the plan. It's not my plan. It's the plan I've heard about, and I believe it's going to happen. It either is or it isn't. But none of these other clowns have plans, right? I mean, they don't, you can say, oh, let's try communism, or let's go back to a tribal way of living, or let's go, develop a new economic system. Nobody's going to take those things. Nobody's going to give up what they already have and take some other system on. They're not going to switch one ism for another ism. And if they do, those things don't work anyway, because the people are corrupt and people are immoral and people are, they'll ruin any system, even the best system. You can't manipulate the material world and the systems that define our existence and expect people to change. First, you have to change people. People have to choose to change, and then a system will come out of that. And so even if you had a perfect system and it was something that would, was flawless and would surely work, it still wouldn't, it wouldn't mean anything, because people aren't going to accept it. It will never be applied because people won't deal with the changes. People don't want to change. They don't want to, they're not going to change. They're not going to accept any kind of other system as long as they're rooted in this one. And so this system has to come down first. I think everybody should be able to see that. And so any plan that any person tells you, any solution they have to sell you, whether they're a politician or a salesman or a truther, and they want your money to, so that you'll somehow, participate and support them in rolling out this system. I mean, even if there was a car out there that ran on water, it would never come to market, right? There's too many, there's powers that be that are keeping change from happening and preventing godly principles and divine energy from shutting down all the evil in this world. They're working, tirelessly to prolong the lifespan of this demonic system. And so the first thing is the system has to come down, and we don't have to take it down. It'll collapse of its own accord based in the divine will that's been orchestrating all the events that are unfolding right now and will unfold into the future. And I believe that's coming from, the Sajmark meditation that I do. And you can align yourself with that or not. Like, I don't care. I'm just telling you about it and whatever. You choose to do what you do. But it's not something we can control, prevent, and we can help by participating and, moving in a positive direction. But, I don't think most people. Okay, so there are a few things, some funny things that people sent me, and this video's already long, though I'm not going to include them here. So I finished this video yesterday on August 29th. Today's Wednesday, the 30th. But just the length of the video, I'm going to wrap it up here, and I got more stuff for next time. So, only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse. and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.